For centuries, seers and prophets have come forward, offering dramatic visions of mankind's destiny.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 creepy predictions that came true.
The statement all but seals the fate of millions of Japanese. The empire has run out of time.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most unsettling prophecies that eventually came to pass. What do you make of predictions? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. The death of James Dean. Alec Guinness, widely known for playing Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars, made a startlingly accurate prediction regarding the death of James Dean.
You wanna carry my books?
I got my car. You wanna go with me?
I go with the kids.
Yeah, I bet.
Dean was a popular actor in the 50s who enjoyed driving fast cars in his free time. On the night of September 23, 1955, Dean met Guinness outside a restaurant and showed him his new Porsche.
Before we go in, I must show you something. I've just got a new car.
As Guinness relates in his autobiography, he proceeded to warn Dean about driving the car. In fact, he got specific and told him that he'd be dead in it by this time next week, meaning the following Friday.
It was one of those
Extraordinary.
odd things.
Has it ever happened to you before?
No, I'm glad to say. But it was one of a very, very odd, spooky experience. He was I liked him very much too. I'd love to have known him more.
Sure enough, Dean died on Friday, September 30th, 1955, when he crashed the Porsche near Shalom, California. Number 9. The BP oil spill. Back in the 1970s, the British Petroleum Company released Offshore Oil Strike, a board game about building an oil empire. Players must collect the oil and lay the pipelines while avoiding various hazard cards. One of these cards reads, Blowout, rig damaged, oil slick cleanup costs, pay $1 million. This card not only spelled doom for the player, but also for the future of BP.
For an installation like the Deepwater Horizon, maintenance is pretty serious. It's not just like fixing a shelf or changing a light bulb.
In 2010, the company's Deepwater Horizon suffered a wellhead blowout and discharged over 200 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. The accident killed 11 people and caused widespread damage to marine habitats.
A total of 5 million barrels of oil spilled into the Gulf, polluting the water, killing marine life, and causing America's largest environmental disaster.
BP has paid over $60 billion in fines and damages. Number 8. The Siegfried and Roy Tiger attack. The Simpsons has correctly predicted many things, and its penchant for prophecy is legendary. One of the scariest predictions occurred in Season 5's Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling.
A number of cities have rejuvenated their economies with legalized gambling. There is an added bonus. Some of the revenue can go to help our underfunded public schools.
In this one, Springfield embraces legalized gambling and opens a casino. This casino employs Gunther and Ernst, a performative duo that parodies Siegfried and Roy.
A round of applause, please, for Anastasia. She loves show business. So much nicer than the savagery of the jungle, yeah?
In the episode, a white tiger pounces on Gunther and Ernst and proceeds to shred their clothing. 10 years later, a white tiger attacked Roy Horn on stage. While he would survive, the incident left Horn with devastating injuries, and their show was permanently closed.
When in the middle of a performance at the MGM Grand, a 400-pound Siberian tiger named Manticore pounced on the magician.
Number 7. JFK and RFK Assassinations. Nostradamus is perhaps the most famous oracle in history. This French physician published Les Prophecies in 1555, a book of supposed prophecies, some of which eventually came true.
The Prophecies eventually became one of the most widely read books in the world. It both astounded and terrified readers with its predictions about dreadful events to come.
One of them allegedly predicted the assassinations of both John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert. One passage reads, "The great man will be struck down in the day by a thunderbolt," which some have interpreted as the shot that killed JFK at 12:30 p.m. on November 22, 1963.
That tragic trip through Dealey Plaza, the first couple riding through that windy road in Dallas in a Lincoln Continental with the top down, the president an open target for assassin Lee Harvey Oswald.
The passage continues with the line, "Another falls at nighttime." Another could refer to another Kennedy brother. Indeed, RFK was killed 5 years later.
But what might have been? What if Bobby had not taken the shortcut through the kitchens? What if a bodyguard had been with him? What if Bobby had lived?
He was shot shortly after midnight on June 5, 1968, and died 25 hours later. Number 6. The Atomic Bomb. Back in 1914, English writer H.G. Wells published a novel called The World Set Free. Wells was well-versed in atomic physics and had a great interest in technology, specifically that which gave us dominion over nature and energy.
Deep in New Mexico, Manhattan Project engineers are on the verge of opening a new and even darker prospect. Their quest to unlock the vast energies trapped within atomic nuclei is complete.
In his novel, Wells accurately predicts a version of the atomic bomb over 30 years before two were dropped on Japan. His version is quite primitive compared to what we saw in 1945, but the general idea was still correct.
The bomb was finally released exactly at the designated hour, and the explosion occurred as planned.
In fact, this may actually be a case of a self-fulfilling prophecy, as the book was read by physicist Leo Szilard, who would later conceive of the nuclear chain reaction.
I understand that H.G. Wells and walking in London traffic resulted in your idea.
Well, you see, I have read the book written by H.G. Wells in 1913.
Wells later said that his epitaph should read, "I told you so, you damned fools." Number 5. Ebola in America. Ebola is a relatively new disease, having been identified in 1976. There have been dozens of outbreaks since then, with the worst occurring between 2013 and 2016. On October 1st, 2014, South Park released an episode titled Gluten-Free Ebola.
That's probably gluten, okay? Oh, God. Gluten causes sluggishness, irritability, and nearly all behavioral problems. I seriously cannot take hearing about gluten anymore. See, that's probably the gluten talking.
In it, the town's residents eat gluten and suffer violent deaths akin to Ebola. The result is a huge health scare that sends the small American town into a panic. The CDC announced that a case of Ebola had been diagnosed in the US just 1 day prior to the episode's airing. As it takes time to write and produce, some theorize that the show had correctly predicted the disease's entry into the country.
Breaking news from the CDC in Texas, where they're expected to announce the diagnosis of the first case of the deadly Ebola virus on U.S. soil.
Number 4. Mark Twain predicts his own death. Alec Guinness predicted James Dean's death, and Mark Twain predicted his own. A very popular satirist, Twain created two of the greatest characters in American fiction with Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn.
Free bootin', living on the fat of the land.
Twain was born on November 30th, 1835, just 2 weeks after Halley's Comet passed by Earth. This comet appears every 75 years or so, and this has been observed for millennia.
Called by many the father of American literature, Mark Twain was born Samuel Langhorne Clemens on November 30th, 1835, in Missouri.
Twain knew it would be coming back within his lifetime, and he reportedly once said, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835, it is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it." Sure enough, he died on April 21st, 1910, just 1 day after the comet passed by Earth.
At the age of 74, Mark Twain died at his Connecticut home on April 21st, 1910.
Number 3. The Boston Marathon attacks. On the afternoon of April 15, 2013, 2 pressure cooker bombs erupted at the finish line of the Boston Marathon, killing 3 people and seriously injuring dozens.
It came, as we all know, on Boston's most celebrated day, the marathon.
The perpetrators were brothers Joe Sagar and Tamerlan Tsarnaev, who were responding to American military action in the Middle East. This horrifying event was predicted over 10 years earlier.
Suspect number 1 with a black cap. Suspect number 2 with a white cap worn backwards, both wearing backpacks that the FBI believes held the bombs.
Back in 2002, an author named Tom Lonergan self-published a book titled Heartbreak Hill. The plot sees extremists threatening to bomb the Boston Marathon. There are some key differences, like the plan being heroically foiled. But the key similarity is too eerie to ignore.
You made a place that you love and you grow up in tainted, and they hurt innocent people. And it makes you, it hurts.
Number 2. The Great Fire of London. We return to Nostradamus for this eerily accurate prediction about the Great Fire of London. This occurred from September 2nd to 6th of 1666, starting in a bakery and quickly developing into a firestorm thanks to strong winds.
We now believe the most likely cause of the Great Fire was a stray ember which ignited a pile of twigs stored in the bakehouse. Unnoticed, it started to take hold.
Social order broke down as the fire raged, and it eventually engulfed the entire city. While the reported deaths were few, the fire was devastating and destroyed much of medieval London, causing the modern equivalent of £1.79 billion in damages.
As dawn broke, London was in utter chaos. Most people had stopped trying to put out the fire and were now desperately scrambling to save themselves and their things.
Nostradamus was pretty much bang on what he wrote. The blood of the just will be lacking in London, burnt up in the fire of 66. He even got the exact year right. Creepy.
The city had learned a hard lesson from the damage caused by the Great Fire. From now on, stronger fire regulations came into force, and there was more control over home building.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1. The Titanic disaster. Turns out, many people have predicted the sinking of the Titanic.
It's the most infamous ship in all history. The Titanic.
In 1898, author Morgan Robertson wrote Futility, or the Wreck of the Titan, in which the titular ship hits an iceberg and sinks. Not only are the circumstances close to that of the Titanic, but so is the name. But the eeriest prediction involves British newspaper editor William Thomas Stead. Stead published a short story called How the Mail Streamer Went Down in Mid-Atlantic by a Survivor.
Nobody's ever been able to see the whole wreck, or even find the edges of the site.
The plot involves many deaths owing to an insufficient number of lifeboats. In a later story, a dramatic rescue operation is launched after a ship hits an iceberg. But that's not all. Stead died on April 15, 1912. He was traveling aboard the Titanic.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.